Great. Good day or good evening, everyone, depending on your corner of the world that you're from. I want to welcome you back to my channel. And today I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to change it up and introduce you to someone who has become a friend. I want to spotlight and highlight people who are out there and their mission is to help humanity and to help with healing and get them through the difficult moments through this ascension process, because we're all at different stages, of course. So I want to introduce Annie.Bryceson. We probably met 4 to 6 weeks ago, something like that. A friend of a friend, but she is at a holistic fair that our community puts on usually twice a year. And I happened to not really see her. There was so much going on, but I met her shortly after that fair. And I have had some personal conversations and sessions with Annie, and she is highly talented and so sweet, and has had a great number of years and experience, and I will let her share all that. But before I let her give her spiel, I'm going to introduce her with the little memo that she has. Annie.Bryceson is her Bryson is her last name, is a healer, a psychic, and a medium. For over 24 years, she has studied and practiced energy and alternative healing modalities around the world. She currently has a practice that does one-on-one sessions to help people achieve their goals. Her practice includes helping others achieve better health, shifting careers, creating abundance, and helping people find loving relationships. Annie's main goal is to help you create a life you love. Her practice also includes teaching classes, specializing in helping her students learn how to use their intuition and feeling more empowered. Annie also loves to help other empaths understand what it is that they are feeling. One of her favorite tools she teaches is the empath's flowchart, giving others a way to understand what it is that they are feeling and the solutions to clear it. So this is just a perfect topic with all the questions that I am aware of that my community puts in our comments and emails me with. You are highly skilled for those people to be able to help them. So Annie, I'm pleased to have you here.
Thank you, Juliann. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm grateful I get to be here today with you and your audience. Perfect. So I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, so I do work with a lot of people right now, one-on-one, and I do teach classes, but one of my missions in life is I want everybody to feel empowered with that they can get answers themselves. I believe everybody has access to intuition, that it's just we're born with it. It's a sixth sense. It's just learning how to access that, because everybody's body is wired a little bit differently. So I feel it's important to give all the tools out there for people to learn so that they can start to get answers and know the truth and feel like they have a way to get some answers when things come up. So today, what I wanted to do is share some tools with everybody in the audience and just kind of go over some of the first things that I like to teach in classes to help you really empower you to get your intuition going. So, all right, you ready to begin?
You bet.
Okay. So the first tool that I always teach, the most important thing that I feel everybody needs to do is always be connected to the light. And when I say light, I'm meaning source consciousness. And I have found everybody kind of has a different word for it. You may say God, you may say universe, you may say Allah, you might say spirit, whatever you like to call it, whatever resonates best with you, it's all the same thing. We all know there's a universal consciousness flowing through all of us. And when we can tap into that, it can help us tune into the right frequencies so we can start to access our intuition and ask questions. So before any readings or healings, what I like to do with my clients and with myself is to make sure I'm connected. The best thing that you can do for yourself is be connected each morning. So that way you can tune into the right frequency, and that will help guide you all day long to make the right decisions, to go to the right places, to talk to the right people, and just make your day so much easier. Now people are like, well, how do I connect to the light? And it is very, I'm going to say there's a million different ways to connect to this frequency. There is meditation, where you just sit and be still, and that will attune your body to the frequency. Or I have some on my YouTube channel, I have some ways that I like to connect, where I like to physically feel like I'm grabbing a hold of the energy and pulling it in my body, because I'm a feeler. So I like to feel the current coming in and running through my body. But here's why this is really important, because I have a lot of people say, well, I connect to angels, I connect to guides, and you can't. That's great. They all help you. But I like to look at us like a radio station. So we are tuned in. You can change the dial at any time. So here we are. If you put us in the middle, we're on this station and we're connected to the light. We're connected to source energy, and that's good. And if you change the dial a little bit to the side, you tune into a frequency just like you do the radio. You change it just the dial a little bit, and you've got a whole nother song on the radio. That's how it is for us as well in frequency. So you can attune the dial to change it and talk to angels. You can turn it and talk to guides. You can turn it and talk to ascended masters. So there's a lot of different things that you can tune into to bring you help. But what I have found, and this is me personally, and I've studied this for 24 years, and I've practiced. I studied talking to angels. I studied talking to archangels. And what I have found, because everything goes under this universal consciousness, you sometimes angels have opinions about something. Your angels love you. Your angels never want to see you hurt. And so, for example, if you ask your angels, is this the right guy for me? You might not get a clear answer, because they don't want to see you sad. They don't want to see you hurt. So, I found some of my clients, they were guided to do something differently. And I said, well, did you connect to the light? And they're like, no, but I'm pretty sure my angels told me this. And I said, well, your angels love you. They don't want you to hurt. Was that really in your highest and greatest good to do? So that's why I feel connecting to source energy first. And then if you want to talk to other beings, that's okay. I also want to just talk about, if you turn the dial, we also have the ability to tap in to other consciousness as well. We can tap into other people's energies. We can talk, we've even learned furniture, crystals have energies. All of this has different frequencies. And I'll tell you what, I can't go into an antique store, because if I do, I just get hit with all this information of the people who own this stuff. I can feel where they were, what was going in their life, and it's full of information. But what I find too is what a lot of psychics do, or if you're giving, say your best friend comes to you and you want to practice reading them, and you're like, okay, let me read you. If you do not connect to the light and tune into that, what you can do is you can tune into that person's energy. So say your best friend says, I want to know if I'm going to get this job. Read me and let me know if I get this job. If you tune into just her frequency, she may have some unworthiness issues. So she may deep down inside be thinking, I'm never going to get this job. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. They'd never like me. And if I read her from that persona, from that perspective, from her vibration and her frequency, I'm going to say, oh, sorry, you're not going to get the job. But if I tune into source consciousness, I'm going to hear, hey, you've got a great shot at this job. We need to clear where you're worried about not being good enough. So let's clear where you're not good enough, and let's get you this job. Let's make it so you just resonate perfectly with them. So that's why it's so important. Connect to the light, connect to source, connect to God, connect to spirit, whatever your word is, to bring that energy in, be on the right frequency. And I always say that frequency is the truth. It's true. It's true
Annie,
energy.
I just want to interject real quickly. And what you're saying there goes for any kind of divination. You know what I mean? Pendulum, muscle testing, all that. The same thing applies, because that's what a lot of people are, attempting to learn, and it's something that people have to practice with. You know what I mean? It doesn't just, you can't just on a whim decide to use it and figure that, oh, well, it's not giving me the right answers. There's a definite process and a growth that you have with your abilities in that, correct?
You're right. You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
Thank
It
you.
does take practice. It's like going to the gym every day and working out your arms.
Right.
You have to work out this spiritual muscle. And as you do, the awesome thing is you'll start to feel it. You'll feel it click real fast. You'll know. And like, yeah. So when you're using your pendulum, if you just sit down and start using it, you could be picking up all sorts of different information that's going to affect the pendulum, so that's, yeah, it is good to connect and just make sure you're ready to go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Juliann, about that?
Not that I can think of, but it makes sense, because you are such an empath and you are so tuned in. Your secondhand stores, you're not going to any farm chicks convention anytime soon. Because, and there's a whole slew of questions that can come up with that too, for other people who are trying to keep themselves clear and open. On the one hand, they don't make things like they used to. So if you want to, whether it's a family member, somebody that was in your family, and it's something that's very precious to you, their energy is on that.
Yes.
Or anywhere you go, or you're trying on clothes in the store. Think of that for a second. I mean, your mind can kind of go there. So that's like a whole nother topic.
Oh yeah, it's really interesting. I got to study a lot about that in through theta healing.
Oh yeah.
There was this course that talked about how because every molecule, every atom can hold that imprint of energy. And like, even they talk about every grain of sand can hold anybody that's ever touched it, that holds the energy of anybody. And it's just a teeny tiny little piece of sand, but it can still hold the consciousness of all those people. So it's really awesome.
That's, like I said, that it might be worth discussing at some other point.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that at the end, but sorry, I know you kind of have a lineup. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go. Thank you.
Okay. So tool number 2, I want to talk to you today is in regards, you connect to the light. Tool number 2, you have to ask the right question. So in my experience, the universe is literal. You have to be very specific about the question that you want to ask. If it's too broad, they can't give you a specific answer. If you're using a pendulum to get yes or no, sometimes the answer is just not yes or no. Sometimes it's 60% yes and 40% no. And that's not a clear, it makes it confusing. So I want to talk about how to ask the right question. First, never use the word should. Should I go on this trip? Should I take this job? Should I date this person? Because the universe will always say yes, because your soul and the universe, they want you to grow consciously. So you may say, should I date this guy? And you're going to get a yes. And then it could be the worst experience of your life. But I bet you learned a lot from it. And the universe is going to be like, see, you should, because now you're a better person. Now you know how to handle that kind of energy. Now you know how to do this. So
yeah. Oh dear.
So try not to use the word should in any of your questions. My favorite question that I like to ask is, will this profit me in all ways? And I just don't mean money wise. I use profit because I love the energy of the word. It means bring to me, bring abundance to me. And I mean mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. Will this profit me in happiness? Will this profit me in joy? Will this profit me in my health? Will this help me be healthy? So profit me in all ways. And when I ask that question, I like to do a scale. I like to use a 1 through 10 scale, or a percentage 1 through 100%. So I may say, will this new job profit me in all ways if I get it? And then I'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being 100% yes and the happiest, where would I be on that spectrum? I like asking a little bit more than yes or no. Yes or no's are great, but I want to get a little bit more specific, because the job might be 70% good for you. And then, so for example, if you were using a pendulum, if it's more than 50%, you're going to get a yes. Yes, the job's good for you. But if you use that chart and you say, okay, it's a 7 or a 70%, you can start to ask more questions. Am I going to get along with my boss? Are my coworkers nice? Will I get a raise? Will they appreciate me? So there's some follow-up questions you can ask. If it's not 100% good for you, start to be a detective and ask more questions. So that's how you get more clarity, and you can really attune. As you ask those questions, you'll start to feel the answers differently, and it will just help you navigate things a lot more easier.
That's beautiful, Annie. That's completely, it's almost like some of the stuff I've talked about in my classes. It all pertains, the more you get used to how to, the yes or no first, so that you feel like you're getting the right questions, and then you hone in on specifics, and it leads you down a whole nother set of questions and getting answers.
Yeah, it builds. It builds.
It builds.
It
It really
definitely
does.
builds. Yes, always start with yes or no questions. That's the easiest way to build your psychic muscles. Start with that yes or no questions, and then add from there. And as you do, what I find, I just want to be honest, some of my clients come back and say, I've been asking and I don't hear anything. And I'm like, just notice any subtleties. Do you get an image of a place you should go? Do you hear a word in your mind? Does a book jump out in front of you and say, and it's the answer to what you were trying to figure out? The universe has a lot of different ways that they can bring you answers. And so just be open to every possibility. When you ask a question, the universe is going to answer you. It may take a little bit. It may take an hour. It might take a full day, but you are always going to get the answer. The answer always comes 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you have any other questions about that, Juliann?
I really don't. I mean, you're like right on point with some of this stuff. And I think this will be very helpful for people. They can come back and re-listen and write down some notes, some very simple things, because I am trying to have people go inward and seek for themselves. We don't need a leader. You just need, your divine source, that is always going to have your very best in mind. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. Yep.
So continue with your beautiful stuff.
All right. So the tool number 3 I want to talk about is, this is something that I struggled with from a very young age. I had no idea that I was so sensitive or empathic to energy. I didn't know what that means. And if you haven't ever heard that word before, I'm sure most of your audience has, but if you haven't, that means you have the ability to feel into that other person's energy, emotions, pains, and feel it for yourself. So for example, when I was young, I could feel the energy, the pains of the people around me. So like my grandmother had breast cancer. My chest would really hurt when I was around her. And I didn't know what that meant. When I was working at jobs, my coworkers' energies, I could just feel what was going on in their house, and it would make me feel kind of yucky. Like if somebody had a bad relationship, I could feel that when they came into work. So being empathic means that you can feel other people's energies. So if you are sensitive to energy, that can affect your intuition. That can well, let me give this example. We all have a partner or somebody we've been with. They come home, they've had a bad day at work. And what do? They walk in the door and you can just see they're just down, they're not happy, and they come home and they just tell you, it was a terrible day. My boss yelled at me, the report went wrong, I hated it, it was awful. And as they're telling you the story, that's great. But then if you're really sensitive to energy, all of a sudden you're going to start to feel yucky. And then they're going to feel good, and they're going to be like, well, thanks for listening, I feel better, and walk off. And then you're left carrying that energy. So what I want to teach you is how to clear other people's energy. I guess that's where I'm getting at. I'm going to teach you how to clear real easy other people's energies off of you. And you know what? Even if you're not sure if you are feeling it or not, still do this, because we all bump up against each other's energies. So these are some tools you can use to clear off people's energies. So the first thing I like to do, I'm going to back up real quick, because one thing that I always struggled with is When I realized finally I was sensitive, I never knew if what I was feeling was mine or somebody else's. So I just want to share with everybody, one of the most easiest questions you could ask yourself is, so if something feels not right in your body, you have a headache, a stomach ache, a cramp, you're extremely exhausted and you have no idea why. The first thing I ask, is this mine or is this somebody else's? And just tune in and see what you get. Because a lot of times if you know, oh my gosh, this headache isn't mine, then it feels easier to clear off of you. But sometimes we do need to know, oh my gosh, I've been eating the wrong food and it's caused me a migraine, and so I need to clean that up. That will help if you know if it's yours. But just knowing, is this mine or is this somebody else's, that will really help you first. Then the second thing I like to teach people is how to clear that energy off. The first way that I like to do is just visualize light coming down. I just visualize a big bright light. I choose white, but you can choose whatever light you need. Sometimes you might need a blue light. Sometimes you need purple light. I just imagine it. Can't get it wrong. You just imagine light coming down around you. And then what you can do is either swirl the energy around you. You can have that light suck the energy and take it off of you. You can, it can feel like a hurricane going around, just cleaning everything up around you. But first you want to visualize light coming down around you. And you want to practice that and keep doing that, because the more you do it, the quicker it'll get. So you just instantly are clearing energy faster and faster. The second thing I add with clearing light, sometimes it's just the light. All you need is the light and you feel so much better after that. But if that doesn't completely take it off, then I like to add some statements with it to really command the energy gone. Because the number one law of this universe is free will. So if someone's energy is on you and you command it gone, it has to leave. One of the first easy statements I like to start with is return to sender. Return to sender. So I'll imagine that light come down and I'll say, return to sender, return to sender. So that's one statement. The other one I like to say is, if it's mine, let it stay. If it's not mine, let it leave immediately. If it's mine, let it stay. If it's not mine, let it leave immediately. Sometimes you might have some really dark, heavier energy on you. It just really is yucky. And that one I have to get a bit of a more stronger command. And with that, I say, I command any and all beings connected to me in any way to stand in the light or be forever gone. I'm going to say that one more time. I command any and all beings connected to me in any way to stand in the light or be forever gone. Now, I've had feedback from my classes and my clients, and they're like, well, I tried it. And I'm like, okay, well, how long did you try it for? And they're like, well, I did it for about 1 minute and I didn't feel anything. When you are starting out, you need to be able to sit with it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not saying you have to sit with it for 2 hours, but when you're first learning to say, get away energy, I'm done with you, the energy is going to try to kind of hang out, especially if it's a darker, lower vibration. It's going to try to hang out with you. And and so you want to really command it away. This is, again, where you're practicing that spiritual muscle saying, no, get away. And the more you do it, the faster it'll leave you. And right now I can be at the point where I'm like, is that mine? Nope. Okay, done. Get out. Done. And it leaves immediately.
Yeah, that's perfect, Annie, because I think that, we have just been in this 3D life, most of us, and the people who, didn't have those natural abilities like you did and so forth, we have been conditioned to have somebody else be able to fix something for us or give us a solution. And in this electronic and internet type age, I call it a microwave society, we want the answer now, or at least by yesterday. And it gets frustrating. And so people just need to take a chill pill and go back and relax and remember that with a little bit of effort and putting yourself first, you're a good example of giving these wonderful tools and concisely, which is great. and sit with it. And so many people who are desperate for answers, or they don't have anybody else to talk to because they're not, awake enough to understand. It means that, you're not really lonely. You have all the time in the world then to develop and get to know yourself. That's what I say. And, so basically what I don't think that what many people don't even understand when you were talking about clearing others' energies. I mean, in the mind, logistically, you might understand that, but nobody really thinks about, oh, that headache. You always think it's yours, or whatever your aches and pains, or whatever it is that you're feeling. Nobody even has thought, about, well, gosh, is this something that's been put upon me from, somebody I met or an experience that I had? So that is like key, I think, for a lot of people to be able to ask that question. So, and my question to you, because you're always clearing and whatnot, when you, for instance, you're in a crowd, you're out in public, let alone a secondhand store. Is there anything else that you do before you even go there, that like a shield of some kind that kind of keeps you from even picking up those frequencies? Because I know of one psychic who said that, she was always she would talk to people of past, right? And she would turn that off by putting a hat on, and that would keep the communication, so she wouldn't even have to deal with it. So is there something like that you do?
Yes, I have two answers to that. Yes, I have two things that I like to do when that's going on. So the first thing that I want to say is, when you connect to the light,
right,
that creates a natural barrier for you.
perfect.
And so I'll go a little deeper into connecting to the light. When I connect to the light, I bring it in, and then I expand my energy outward as far as I can. Now, as humans, we are conditioned to contract our energy in to keep us safe. We will naturally pull our energetic aura field into us. Now, what happens when you pull your energy in? That stuff can bump up closer to you. So the more you use the light and push it out, it's a natural barrier. And what happens when I'm trying to think of the saying, how do you get rid of darkness?
Mm-hmm.
You turn the light on. So when you have that light coursing through you, not only is your frequency higher, and what they've discovered scientifically is when that frequency is higher, like love, joy. In fact, there is a chart you can go look up by Dr. David Hawkins, and he put the frequency of every emotion on that chart. So if you are bringing in this energy and you feel good and joyful and happy and you're radiating it out, people's energy can't come up to you as close and bump into you. In fact, most of it dissipates before it even comes into you. It just will naturally start to protect you and shield you. And I like that even more so than creating a bubble or shield around you. I, for years, tried bubbles, and I'm like, for me personally, it never worked when I did a bubble. And I realized, because here I'm contracted inside the bubble, like, please don't get me, please don't get me. And the energy would just come right through the bubble and tap up against me. But now that I push my energy out and expand myself, that helps immensely.
Well, that's great. I was going to say, keep going. I was going to say something.
The second thing that I do, no matter what, if I don't do this, I get burned every time. Before I go anywhere, like a large crowd, a concert, a fair, I will visualize light coming in, and I will clear the space before I get there. I will clear the energy. So like when I do holistic festivals, there's a lot of people coming in there with pain and problems and abuse, and they're going there for help. So I bring in the light and I clear out that energy, so that way the light will just bring them whatever help they need in the moment and kind of help that stuff just dissipate, so I don't have to feel it.
Yeah.
I have a great story of a client who is very psychic and empathic, and I talk about this on my podcast. She went on a plane and sat next to a woman who, nice woman, perfectly fine woman, but whatever was going on was so horrific. My client went into a full panic attack, shaking, anxiety, thought she was going to be sick on a plane because she couldn't get away from this woman. And I heard if she would have blessed the plane ahead of time, that would have helped clear that up. So I will bring in some light before I'm going to any space. Now, when I don't and I forget, then I usually bump up some energy and then I'm clearing it as
Yeah.
it hits me. So
It creates more work for you in the long run.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really, again, another thing to practice, figuring out how that works for you, and get in a habit when you leave your home, or if you're going to be, even if it's work,
Yes.
or even if it's well, you're going to keep your home clear too. But if you have visitors that come, you have holidays and whatnot. What I was going to say when you said about the energy, how you push it out, and you, instead of holding in your aura or your energies, you push out all that light and all that wonderful energy.
Yes.
And you keep the entities or the negativity from even getting close to you. That is what happens when, let's say, your light is shining, let your light shine, if you want to say it that way. So how many times you've wondered why you maybe met somebody and you wanted to be included in something, or you wanted to sign up for something, they didn't want you, or somehow they kind of found every reason to not be around you. Or you I've always liked the old saying, it was rejection is God's protection. Well, we can use rejection, is your source or your angels, protecting you. It's because it wasn't good for you in the first place. And they already know that because they can feel your positive energy, right? So they want
Yes.
nothing to do with you. So they're gonna, you've already turned on your light, and those cockroaches are scrambling. So they're not even gonna grab onto you.
You are 100% correct. I
That's how I
agree
see
with
that.
you perfectly. You got to trust that.
Right.
If it's so hard as humans, we're like, well, why don't they like me? Why don't they like me? That, like you said, that's God's way of protecting you from a lot of trouble down the road.
Right.
Is and it's as scientific as your vibration is different than theirs,
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's been a
So
good explanation. Even I've raised two children, a boy and a girl, and they are very different as far as raising a boy and a girl. But with my daughter particularly, she was very sensitive when things didn't go right, or friends, people can be very mean. Sometimes they don't even mean to be, their words bite. They're hard to take. And again, that was one of the things, there's a reason why. There's a reason why this isn't working out for you. Ultimately, you're the people who make you happy and you don't have to work so hard at being friends with are the ones that are meant to be in your life. So you need to look at things differently, would you say?
absolutely,
So that's a
100%.
good example. So
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that you said that. It's really true. It's really true.
yeah. The there's just so many beautiful pearls that you have to offer. And I do want to tell people, there's so much more that you're able, you are a psychic. You, you work with telekinesis, correct?
Yes.
You,
Yes.
we were talking about vortexes there for a while. And I know you can explain more on that. You do some remote viewing. And
Yes.
when you say remote viewing, that is things from the past, right? And you can remote view to the future.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then basically timelines. Okay. I know just enough to be dangerous with that. It's still, I will really be honest. It's really something that's hard to wrap your head around. So those are all things that I know that you deal with. So, do you have any like short little examples to give people as to what some of the things that you've done? You're not going to use any names or anything, but is there a really interesting case or?
Yeah, let me think of some good stories. And a lot of this all came about when I started to work on people. What I
Okay.
realized is working one-on-one with people, everybody's different,
Right.
everybody's wired differently. So I'm so thankful that I've studied so many tools throughout the world, because then I can grab whatever tool that person needs.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm working on timelines with people, well, there's that. I'm trying to think of a good story
I know I
because
put you on the spot without letting you think about it.
I'm trying to think of a really good timeline story. Well, what I do for healing, though, is what I have found, especially for the body.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and this is a whole other topic, we can do a whole nother show on the body and the healing. Sometimes what I found is someone is in there, just I'm going to randomly throw out a number, 72 or 75, and they're having excruciating back pain. And then I go in and I'm trying to heal the back pain. And then what I find out is there's something that happened to them when they were 17 years old, and they didn't realize that that imprinted into the body at that time, and that energy stays. So when we have situations, trauma, events happen in our life, there is something that happens where it sticks in your cellular memory. So instead of healing right now in this moment, I have to go back to their self at a different timeline, and I have to do the healing on their 16 or 17-year-old self. And when I do that, then all the pain dissipates from now. But I have to go in, I can go see that person. I kind of have a sense of where they're at, what their environment looks like, what their haircuts were. It's kind of different per person, but I see that person and I explain to them and I talk about it. And sometimes people have the memory. Oh my gosh, I do remember that happening. And I would say 99.9% of everybody eventually at some point, if they don't remember in that moment I'm doing a session, they'll come back later and say, okay, now I remember that happening. It took me a while, but now I remember and I see how that affected my life. So
because you're able to look at the different timelines, and you're speaking to a physical symptom that they have here right now,
yes.
And that it pertains to something that happened on a different timeline, but in this lifetime.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's change that and ask, is that still pertinent, that physical symptom here and now? Is that a cellular imprint, can that be a response to a past lifetime of you?
100%. Yes.
And you're able, and then you can discern if, or maybe it's all the above. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I've studied this too. So, because I have to use it for healing. For past lives, yes. What I found for my clients, if they have died in a traumatic way, that for some reason has stuck in their soul and it comes to this body and this timeline. So, I'm trying to think of a good story. I had one person that had chronic headaches. And so I kept trying, in this time to heal it. And I'm like, this isn't right. It's not going away. So I was like, show me where this is. And I went back to a past life and they had died by someone hitting them in the head. And of course they died instantly. But what was even more crazy about that past life, it was someone that they knew and they trusted. And so because of that, the soul was kind of, still really upset that someone they trusted so much would kill them off. So I had to go back to that past life, heal the trauma, heal the pain, get the soul to let that information,
Wow,
you don't let it go, but there's a healing that happens where you kind of are like more accepting. Okay.
You have to acknowledge it.
Yes.
And then forgive it, or it is, because you can't change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a fun fact, I just want to throw this fun fact out for anybody. I've studied this, and for me, I found it a lot true. If what they say now is if you have a birthmark somewhere, that's usually how you died. And my son has a big birthmark right here, right in the middle of his chest, and it's the size of a bullet hole right in the middle of his chest. And I've read and saw a lot of people will say, they'll have maybe a birthmark right here, and that could be like you got shot with an arrow and the arrow pierced into your organs. Or so I just am throwing that out there for anybody to play. If you have a birthmark,
it could be. I mean, it's one of the my birthmark is on my ankle. I don't think a person dies from that unless you bleed to death. I don't know.
That's true. But
that makes sense. And then when you talk about this trauma, because I mean, there's a lot of people who have been like deathly afraid of water. Will they possibly drown in one of their lifetimes before?
Yes.
Those kind of things, or like even your fear of heights and your fear of your claustrophobic situation. There's something to that.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all know, I don't know if, I'm just saying this in case in history, they talk about there was this time period where people, I can't remember what the thing was that they would eat, but they would go in such a deep sleep that their family thought they died. And so
Oh,
people were buried
yes.
alive. And when they pulled up old coffins, they're scratched. I hate
Oh,
talking about it. It
oh,
makes
I
me feel
know.
horrible.
Well, there's all kinds of horrible things to think about, you know, that if you can think about it, right? If you can imagine it, or it's in your mind for some reason, or, like we used to have creature features growing up. Honestly, it probably is a thing. There's some validity to it, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, why would you have that in your mind?
You're
Why
right.
would it be a thing?
You're right. Absolutely. It wouldn't even be there. You just would never think about it. It wouldn't come into your existence at all. Hmm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there are definitely, I do think that there's going to be some little topics that we could discuss, and I'm going to ask the viewers, you can, if you have anything that you specifically would like her to expound on, that would be great. You could, the best way would be to probably send me an email, and my email is attached to in the description box to this, because it's better for me to be able to have a conversation with you on that. If you want something to be addressed on a show rather than in the comments, I'd really appreciate that, because I know Annie's very, very open to teaching, and I mean, that is one of the things she does too.
Yes.
And ironically, when I first met her, she did, I mean, I've been in dentistry all my life. That's been my career and whatnot, which I'm sure there'll be some point that I'll have a topic about that we'll discuss. It's kind of one of those things. It's the elephant in the room right now for me, because I still have one foot at the job. But I think a lot of her family was busy doing things in dentistry, and that just
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
her gig. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody else, sister, mom, dad, everybody, my aunt, everybody else was dental hygienist or a dental lab technician. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go be different.
Well, that never once was in your wheelhouse. I can't imagine you working on people so closely and having all those empathic feelings. That would be something, when you work closely with people too, that's different.
Yes.
Very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love for people to give me your suggestions as to what you want. Anything, I mean, do you have any other little pearls that you want to say today?
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
I just want to say that's why I do what I do now
Yeah.
is I'll be honest, for years I struggled with
Mhm.
this and I thought I was cursed. I tried everything to turn off this. I was like, this isn't a gift. I'm going to turn it off. And I hate this. I don't like feeling. I don't want to do this. I don't want to know this information. And what I found is you can't turn it off. And when I learned to just use my gifts for the greater good and help people, I felt better. And so I don't want anybody to ever struggle or have the things happen to them that happened to me. I could never figure it out. Why is this happening to me? And then now I know it's to help. Now I can help more people because I know what it feels like, what it's been through. So I love teaching, helping, getting you the knowledge. If I don't know, I'm going to show you where you can go to get the information, because I want everybody to feel empowered and that there's a way to create a better, healthier, happier life. And you are not just stuck and you don't have to just put up with it, that we will help you get to where you want to be.
That is so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that part up, because honestly, it's what I hear so many people who are very talented and very effective psychics, mediums, and so forth. They went through a very dark time as a young child when they didn't understand it. And oftentimes they are born into families that don't understand it either. And what is it the age of, is it when they get to age 7, or they've left the age of 7 and they're now 8, that, children, well, we know that the children that have been born for the last while now, last few years, are really from higher, I mean, they come in so much more awake already.
Yes.
But naturally, as an infant, you're not, even though there's a veil, I mean, I guess we've always had this veil, but you are open. You're an open to all these things. And so kind of like the child and the parents, like, oh yeah, her little friend, she's in there having tea with her little friend or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not make believe. you know what I
That's
mean?
not an
And
imaginary friend. That could be
right,
an angel, a guide, a
right,
deceased loved one. Yeah.
correct. And so is it age 7 or by the time they get to age 8 that kind of closes down that communication?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of kids because when you're 0 to 7, you're in theta brain state, so you're absorbing the world around you.
Okay.
And if your caregivers and family or your church or your
Oh
whatever it
yeah, all the
is
dogma.
yeah, whatever is telling you you shouldn't do this, then around 8 9 you're like, shut it down, just okay, this isn't what we do. Because your brain starts to change and go into a different state, so then you start to be like, okay, I've learned, close the door, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this. And it's usually because of the beliefs around you now. And so if a kid's encouraged to keep talking to their invisible friend, then that helps encourage that person to open up to those abilities that they have.
The creativity. So when you
Yeah.
say at theta state and you're more open to that, and we talk about, well, your third eye, your pineal, I say pineal, but your third eye has been calcified and shut, and we know the different things that have done that. But is that kind of the same thing, or is it something in addition, to be like, is that where the meditation comes in, that you get in your theta?
Yes, yes. When you go into meditation or any connection, you're changing your brain waves into theta and opening it up. And
Yeah.
I believe, even if you shut down a long time ago and you're like, no, I can't do this, I believe everybody can open up. Everybody has the ability to be intuitive. And there's different ways that can come in. So yes, as soon as you start to do that, it is so cool to watch the amazing things that start to happen to people. Just
Hmm.
the synchronicities alone, the
Right. Right.
synchronicities that show up in your life. But yes, any of that I feel like can be changed, can be done. I always believe there's possibility, there's miracles. I've seen miracles
Yes, you have.
with my clients, and so I know there's so many amazing things that can happen. Yeah.
Right. That you don't put anybody in a box and you don't discount any possibilities. And that is a good point, because there's so many like even questions or comments that I've heard from the viewership, since we basically reach around the world, which is another mind blower and so awesome. That there's been people saying, well, I had this and such experience when I was a child. I used to do this and that. And, some event or something happened, and all of a sudden it just left, or they, I don't know. Some of them don't even know what shut it down. They don't say it's because they were ridiculed or anything, but now they haven't had it for the rest of their adult life. How can they get it back? So,
Yeah. And these steps we talked about today is how you get it back. I mean,
okay.
if I could leave you with one important thing, take these tools and practice, 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 practice. I know I've had people say, you do it so easily, but I have studied for more than 24 years. I have practiced and practiced and practiced. And that attunes those psychic muscles. I'm going to call it psychic muscles. And if you had it before, it's still there. It just kind of needs to be reactivated and reminded, oh yeah, if I listen quietly, I'll hear the answer. Or, oh my gosh, yes, I do remember that invisible friend. That was actually my angel wanting to help me through my childhood. And you can start to ask to connect with that person again. So yeah, yes,
Wow.
absolutely. It's
And
possible.
right.
Mhm.
And even if you don't recognize that you had those abilities when you were younger, everybody born into this world has that ability.
Yes.
That's who
Yeah.
we are, our DNA, right. That's why we're so special.
Yes.
As
Yes.
beings, we're
Yeah.
eternal. We're eternal beings, and very, very cool. Oh my gosh, this has been very exciting, Annie. I so appreciate you, and coming on with to answer some of these questions and tell us about you. And we probably will be doing some things again in the future. So again, give me your guys's suggestions, and I will put in the description box below the video. I'll put her contact information. Annie has her own website. She certainly does in-person sessions, but she does online as well. And I believe a lot of that information is on her website as far as contact information. She has a YouTube channel. I'll put that link. She also does a podcast on Spotify. So all of that stuff will be listed down there. And this has just been wonderful. And I thank you so much, Annie, for coming. And
Thank you,
I hope that
Juliann.
you all have enjoyed our conversation. And we will talk to you next time with something interesting. So have a great day today or evening. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Thank